The Caribbean is no longer a tranquil sea, it's a pre-war battleground.
Since early September 2025, the United States has carried out at least 21 lethal strikes on vessels in disputed waters, killing at least 83 people. Simultaneously, Washington has launched Operation Southern Spear, an unprecedented deployment featuring the USS Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group, over 10,000 troops, and advanced air assets, marking the largest U.S. military presence in the region in more than half a century. Under President Donald Trump, returned to office and flanked by a hawkish national security team, the U.S. justifies this show of force as a necessary response to narcoterrorism, claiming Venezuelan territory is being exploited by transnational criminal syndicates like Tren de Aragua, which Washington recently designated a foreign terrorist organization. But Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro calls these strikes what he sees them as, a military attack on civilians and a bloody threat against his nation's sovereignty.
He has warned that any U.S. incursion onto Venezuelan soil will trigger an immediate declaration of a republic at arms.
This bilateral standoff is already spilling beyond two nations.
Trinidad and Tobago, after permitting the U.S. destroyer USS Gravely to dock and allowing a new U.S. radar installation near its coast, now faces furious condemnation from Caracas and rising domestic unrest. Meanwhile, strikes near the maritime borders of Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru have provoked formal protests over violations of sovereignty, stoking fears of a cascade that could draw much of Latin America into conflict. At the heart of the crisis lies a stark divergence in narratives. The U.S. insists its actions target the 5 to 15% of Colombian cocaine said to transit through Venezuela. But multiple intelligence and UN reports show that the majority of this cocaine flows to Europe, not the United States, casting serious doubt on the official rationale. Many analysts, including Christopher Sabatini of Global Americans, argue the real objective is regime change, a coercive campaign designed not to stop drugs, but to fracture the Venezuelan military and force Maduro from power. Diplomatic sources confirm that Washington has issued a private ultimatum: step down and receive safe passage into exile. Maduro has refused, calling it a colonial ultimatum. From Caracas, this is not counter-narcotics, it's geopolitical plunder.
Maduro frames the U.S. offensive as an attempt to seize control of Venezuela's world-leading proven oil reserves, revive American refinery access, and reassert hemispheric dominance under a revived Monroe Doctrine. In response, Venezuela has mobilized 15,000 troops along its border with Colombia, conducted nationwide military drills, and appealed to OPEC, the non-aligned movement, and Global South allies, drawing explicit parallels to past U.S. interventions in oil-rich states.
Militarily, the imbalance is overwhelming.
Operation Southern Spear fields F-35 stealth fighters, Tomahawk cruise missiles, and real-time surveillance, capable of striking any target in Venezuela with surgical precision. The goal isn't occupation, it's strategic decapitation, paralyzing command networks, energy infrastructure, and military morale to trigger internal collapse. Venezuela's armed forces, though nominally 300,000 strong, suffer from chronic underfunding, politicized leadership, and equipment decay. While it retains Russian-made air defenses and MiG-29s, it lacks spare parts, electronic warfare capability, and the logistics to sustain even a short campaign.
Desertion and internal dissent remain persistent risks. Yet the greatest danger isn't disparity, it's proximity. U.S. warships like the Gravely now patrol just miles off Venezuela's coast. Venezuelan patrol boats shadow them. With forces on hair-trigger alert and communication channels degraded, a single misidentified radar blip, a warning shot gone awry, or a rogue commander's decision could spark the very war both capitals claim they want to avoid. This crisis is no longer regional, it's global.
Trinidad and Tobago's government faces mounting backlash, with opposition leaders warning the nation has been turned into a forward firing line. Colombia, though supportive of U.S. aims, braces for refugee flows and spillover violence. Ecuador and Peru demand emergency action from the OAS. On the other side, Russia deepens intelligence and arms coordination with Caracas. China, Venezuela's largest creditor, continues importing over 400,000 barrels per day of crude, making Beijing's economic stake undeniable. Cuba and Iran provide tactical advisors and logistical support, reinforcing Venezuela's resistance. The humanitarian fallout could be catastrophic. A conflict would likely trigger a second mass exodus, adding millions to the existing 9 million Venezuelan refugees.
Simultaneously, oil production, already fragile, could drop 25 to 50%, sending shockwaves through global energy markets and hitting developing economies hardest. The parallels are chilling. The Trump administration's rhetoric, framed by some officials as a new Monroe Doctrine, echoes the 1989 invasion of Panama to oust Manuel Noriega. Yet unlike Panama, Venezuela is larger, better armed, and embedded in a multipolar alliance network. This isn't a quick strike, it's a high-stakes gamble on coercion. The path forward now hinges on one question. Will Nicolas Maduro accept exile to avert war, or will his defiance compel the United States to cross the Rubicon with direct, large-scale military action on Venezuelan soil? The answer won't just decide Venezuela's fate. It may determine whether the Caribbean becomes the epicenter of the first major US-led military conflict of the multipolar era, with consequences that reverberate far beyond the Americas.